Hi, everyone. Hello, hello. Who's here? Welcome. It's Dawn here. Hi, tennis girl. Okay. So, we talked last week about taking a look at Alec Baldwin's interview on ABC News by George Stephanopoulos. So, here I am fulfilling my promise. I was hoping to do this a little earlier in this week, but sorry, adjust my chair. But here I am. Saturday night, and I ain't got nobody. I don't know. How does that song go? Is that Elton John? Let me just put my headset in. How you doing, tennis girl? What's new? I'm working on this whole situation with the comments. I'm talking to StreamYard because my other podcast, my whole screen shifts up when the comments come on. I don't know why I can't make it do it for this podcast, but something's going on. Yeah. Another Saturday night, and I ain't got no. I'm not sure if it's no money or nobody. Um, Anyone knows the lyrics? You can let me know. I always thought it was I ain't got no money. Hi, Helen. I've missed you both too. It's been a whole week. So let me quick check my audio settings before we get started. Obviously, you can hear me right now, or would you be saying something like your lips are moving, but I can't hear what you say? Okay, I did not have my microphone on. It should sound a little better now. And my headphones should be working. All right. And I wear the headphones, ear, whatever these things are in my ears, because that provides theoretically a better quality audio for you when I play another video. So awesome. Okay, so let's get started. It's money. Okay, another Saturday night, and I ain't got no money. Very proper English there from the Englishman, Elton John. Okay, thank you. Pink lipstick solves everything. And I had my hair recolored this week too. Thank you. I wish I could see you. Who wants to come on with me? I do have some collaborations coming up and some local talent that I've been wanting to invite on. A retired FBI agent who used to do murder investigations, who switched over to murder investigations for the local San Diego Police Department. And I have some questions for him, and I want to talk with him. He also has PTSD from his experiences in that field. Wonderful, super intelligent guy. Haven't invited him yet, though. I should probably not say anything, but I think he'll say yes. My friend's husband, very dear people. And then a local lawyer, and then some other YouTube lawyers that I'm talking with behind the scenes. So you won't get hopefully too bored with just me. So you don't have to get dialed up. You don't have to get dialed up. The only thing is no background music, noises like dogs and cats and screaming kids or anything like that. If you really wanted to do it and you're really worried about your appearance, you could just do it where your profile picture shows up if you're uncomfortable. That way we can hear your voice instead of just typing. But yeah, you're welcome to do that. Aw, thank you so much. It's been a week. There's so many trials going on. So after we do this, if I have the energy and my throat doesn't hurt and all that jazz, I'll go over the itinerary of all the trials I'm looking at. And it's been kind of nice to have a small break here so we can get caught up on some of the trials that are coming up, like the Crystal Rogers and the Elena Hutchins that are coming up, so that we're not all super behind. I like, one of the reasons I started to do my own channel is because I really like to look at these kind of interviews as well as police interrogations and the things that, and preliminary hearings when they're available, because the things that might come up in a trial. So as a potential juror, we might see in a trial, we can see the whole context of it, because a lot of times these interviews are so long and a lot gets cut up. And quite frankly, a lot of times lawyers will take them pieces of what the interviewees say out of context. And I've seen that, and I don't like it. I don't like it. I think that was done in the Hannah Guitierrez trial, very much out of context. I mean, did that make her not guilty? No, but it could be fodder for an attorney who is trying to get somebody convicted who really shouldn't maybe be accused of a crime, because we do have innocent people getting imprisoned. Okay, so yeah, you get your courage up. And so Tennis Girl says, if Helen does it with me. Well, you guys, you chat among yourself, you figure that out. If you want to contact me, just click my about section here on YouTube, click the email, shoot me an email and all that. So yeah, you can't trust just the summaries or just out of context statements too, because things can be twisted. And all I can say is, who knows what I would say if I were in a situation where I was suddenly hauled in, didn't have the presence of mind to have an attorney. Hopefully I would, but a loved one died or something like that, either intentionally or involuntarily, because you can get charged for that too. And I said the wrong thing, or it was taken out of context and then was maybe blamed for a crime that I maybe didn't commit. So I always think about, what would I feel like if I were in this situation? And I also always like to think of presumed innocent. Now, there are some trials that we watch that we know there's so much evidence. You wonder, why are these people even going to trial? But they do. And of course, on the off chance that they get a mistrial or something like that. But I'm talking about the ones where we really don't know for sure if it's a straight up guilty. I always remind myself, presume innocence. So yes, I don't trust transcripts either. That's another reason. Good point. I'm glad you brought that up. I don't trust transcripts. Of course, I don't know what the transcript said of Wendy. And I went through Wendy's entire police interview, 5 hours. If you haven't seen that, I have a playlist for all of the different cases that I've done. So take a look at it. You guys probably have seen that. And I just wonder what, if and when she's arrested, and if and when she has her trial, what parts of those interviews will, I shouldn't say those interviews, that those 5 hours of an interview will end up in the trial, because there's a lot there. Yeah. Okay. So you ready to take a look at, and by the way, I'm struggling. This is the time of year when the light's changing, it's going down. My apartment's super bright. So I might have to get up and adjust the lights a little. I can already see I'm getting a weird shadow because the sun's getting low here, and I'm also getting a little blinded. So I'm trying to avoid the sun I have a shade, but it's not all the way down. I digress. Let's get going. If I get up and adjust the lighting, just bear with me. Hope it's not too distracting. All right. So this again is Alec Baldwin's exclusive interview on ABC News with George Stephanopoulos. And I believe, well, let's just let it speak for itself. We'll go ahead, and I'm going to make it a full screen, and just give me the thumbs up as long that you can hear this. Okay. Let me check this volume. Yep, that's good.
Phones are off. Let me get slate. Marker, good. Great. More phone.
Alec, thank you for doing this. You haven't said much in public since that tragic accident. Why speak out now?
Well, I think that there's a criminal investigation, and that could be a while. There's all kinds of civil litigation, and I felt there were a number of misconceptions, most of it from sources I really wouldn't concern myself about, but a couple that I did concern myself about, where there were these authoritative statements about, this is what happened. The sheriff's department hasn't even released a report to the DA yet. The reason I wanted to sit down with you is because I really feel like I can't wait for that process to end in February, March. I mean, I'm not asking them to speed it up for my benefit. That's ridiculous. But I am saying that they're going to do what they need to do. And I wanted to come to talk to you to say that I would go to any lengths to undo what happened. I would go to any lengths to undo what happened.
I think the big question, and the one you must have asked yourself 1,000 times, how could this have happened?
Well, there's two things I want to say about that. One is that when I talk about this, my concern is that I don't sound like I'm the victim, because there is a victim. There's a woman who died, and my friend got shot. He's my friend, and she was a new friend. I met her, and we worked together on some of the mapping out of what we're going to do on the film, which, you know, in the movie terms, if you go make a movie with Scorsese, you and the DP don't sit down and they solicit your ideas of how to make the film. You know what I mean? In the case of Helena, we sat down collaboratively and talked a lot about what we wanted to do in that a precious amount of time we had. But I want to make sure that I don't come across like I'm the victim, because we have two victims here. And the second thing is that all of what happened on that day leading up to this event was precipitated on one idea, and that is that Helena and I had something profound in common. And that is, we both assumed the gun was empty, other than those, dummy rounds.
I want to get into more detail.
Pause, as Katie would say, stop. The gun was empty, except for the dummy rounds. Okay, those are two very different things. Empty is one thing, except for the dummy rounds is another. So right there, we did learn. And of course, we're looking at the things that or listening to what Alec Baldwin is saying in light of what we heard at the Hannah Gutierrez, New Mexico versus Hannah Guitierrez trial. Okay, you heard gummy. Okay. So first of all, he has said he wants to make sure he's not the victim. And I don't know why anyone needs to say that. Like, did anyone think he was the victim? That was interesting. But also, just by way of reminder, in case you don't know it, this interview was done before Alec Baldwin was charged the first time. His charges were then dropped, and then he was recharged, and now with the special prosecutor. So, and yes, it was his company. Rust was his company. He was one of the producers, all of it. In fact, he had a couple companies involved in this, making money or getting tax shelter, or both from this movie.
Detail on the day in a minute, but let's take a step back. What was it that drew you to this project in the first place, to Rust?
I'd worked on a project with Joel before.
Joel Souza, the director.
Right. He did this movie, Crown Vic, that I produced. And Joel and I stayed in touch. We're friends, and I loved Rust. He said, I want to send you this. And I read it, and I said, I love it. I love it.
Rust, a low-budget Western, tells the story of an aging outlaw on the run with his young grandson. Baldwin, the film's star, is also one of the producers.
Very excited. Very, very, so excited that we finally got this made, because every independent film has many false starts, you know what I mean? And when it finally goes, you feel like a plane. When you finally get some lift under your wings, it's very, very gratifying.
Just out of curiosity, I'm not a fan of Westerns at all. I'm just curious if anyone here in the chat likes cowboy movies, because I just find them an interesting genre. Okay, and hello, Queen. I didn't get to say to you earlier. Yeah, so Tennis Girl doesn't like Westerns, not so much. Yeah, I've had not the greatest opinion either for variety. I don't know, just a vibe. I have that same vibe. It's strong when I have it, and it's not with many people, for example, celebrities that I've never met, but I do get a vibe even from people that I haven't met once I see them. And Helen loves Westerns. Okay. I have a good friend who lives in Santa Fe. I think I've even gone by that ranch, if I'm not mistaken. It's a really beautiful area, and I've got some acquaintances also who live in Santa Fe, and friends who travel there pretty religiously, like for the Santa Fe Opera and that kind of thing. And the locals are not happy about this trial because they felt like, hey, this was an accident and now this is hurting our industry. This was a moneymaker for the community, for the larger Santa Fe community, and now people don't want to make movies there anymore because they think, they're going to get the hammer dropped on them. I mean, that's an overriding thought that I've picked up on from several people in the area. So, okay. We can still be friends even if we don't like Westerns, and we do like Westerns. Absolutely. And your husband, Helen's husband, got her hooked. Oh, that's very cool. And Queen says she hasn't liked Western. Yeah, I feel like it's kind of a guy thing. I don't know. That's just been my thing, but I shouldn't be so sexist. Yeah, if it's really historical and really well done, but a low budget cowboy Western where it's just shoot, it just seems like men acting like boys, like, I don't know, like they're playing a little boy game. CA is California, or it could be Canada. Oh, okay. Okay. Let's keep going.
A purely creative producer. My authorities as a producer are casting and script, which are actually married to the role of being a lead actor in a film.
So you're not the kind of producer who's looking at the line item of each budget.
No. There are basically two types of producers who are really in charge of production: people that raise the money and the people who spend the money. My consultations or approvals were completely about casting and about the script. I don't hire.
Okay, don't know if you caught this or not, but he's saying he was involved in hiring the cast. It came out that he had a say in Hannah Guitierrez, the armorer's hiring as well during the trial. Now, I don't know if that was false or true, but it didn't seem to be contested. And I do believe it was the defense that brought that up when cross-examining one of the prosecution witnesses. So he did give the approval for her hire. He's now saying right here. So I'm picking up on, okay, he's trying to control what his image is more than anything. And he's also right there trying to distance himself from responsibility by saying he wasn't involved. He didn't say I wasn't involved in hiring anyone else. He just said I was involved in hiring the cast, implying that he wasn't involved in hiring the armorer or anyone else.
Hire anybody in the crew. I don't
Not
know,
even the cinematographer, no one.
No, but he will apprise me of what he's doing. And he'll say to me, I got Helena Hutchins to be the DP. I said, how do you feel about that? Are you excited? I'm very excited. She's wonderful.
He will apprise him. No, he had a say, obviously, in any major hire. Obviously, especially the cinematographer. Come on.
What did you know about Helena Hutchins before she started working on this?
I knew nothing about her until Joel said to me, I got her. She was fantastic.
Helena Hutchins, the talented cinematographer praised by many in the industry, was a trailblazer in the field historically dominated by men.
Make sure we don't see people walking around like walking around.
Ready? Action.
The Ukrainian-born cinematographer quickly gelled with Baldwin.
The people who watched The Daily said that her work was beautiful. She was someone who was loved by everyone who worked with and liked by everyone who worked with and admired. Sorry. But admired by everybody who worked with her.
What do we think about The Cry? Okay, why do you think The Cry is fake? Acting. He is an actor. That's right. Yeah, he's He's definitely looking tired. Yeah, doesn't Helena look really cool? Everything you've read about her, she seems really neat. I don't know if you heard her background that was discussed a little in the trial. Quite an interesting background. She's Ukrainian, and she was raised on like a Russian military base in the upper Arctic area. Crazy. Okay, so Tennis Girl says his crying didn't hit her right, and him putting his head down, right? Did you see any tears? Did you see red eyes? Couldn't see his eyes, but he did not see him tears. Snotty nose, a little bit of a dry throat. On the behavior panel, I believe it was Mark Bowden, I'm pretty sure, said that, and because Mark Bowden has a background in acting and theater as well, one of the things that they do to help themselves cry and to help the effect is to have a little bit of peppermint oil on their hand or somewhere so that they can kind of sniff it, and that'll make their nose run. And he brought out the possibility, he thought that was it seemed like it, that especially because of no tears, right? The fact that he had to hide his face. I mean, you could hide your face naturally crying, but it didn't come across, it just didn't come across authentic to me either. So I was curious what you thought.
Rust's 21-day production began filming on October 6th at the Bonanza Creek Ranch, just outside Santa Fe, New Mexico. The ranch has long been a favorite location for filming Westerns.
We need a place to lay low.
Things have a way of escalating out here in the West, with one thing leading to another.
The day that I flew there, they'd been shooting for a week already. I come the following week on the 11th. That night of the 11th, I had dinner with Helena and Joel, and we talked about some of the compositions I was thinking.
I thought it was weird that he said, I come on the 11th. Not that I came or I went or I arrived. It's just a weird choice of tense there of the word come.
That
was the first time you met?
First time I met Helena, yeah.
What was your first impression?
When I met her, I knew she had that spark. I knew she had that flint to her, that she was going to get that day's work done and get the shots that she wanted. She was very focused.
She had a vision for the
She
film?
was very focused. We had a discussion about compositions of shots in which you were shooting these beautiful tableaus of the West. She had that intensity.
Okay. So when he first asked her, he couldn't hold back his tears. And now where did that all go? He's got a little sniffle in his nose left over. You just heard him sniff. But he's going on to the tableau and the just the larger gestures about this. How I think he's also, in my opinion, trying to elevate this low budget film to be something more artistic and bigger than it actually was, and again kind of misdirecting or redirecting the conversation with all the big gestures. Oh, this large tableau and blah blah blah. It just seems a little bit I'm laughing at Queen Elizabeth. It does seem just a little bit weird in light that the fact that he just cried at the mention of her personal qualities, and now he's talking about her flint and her spark, and she knows how to get things done. And he has absolutely no emotion. He's just going on about the grandeur of their project together, which I find very strange. Now, could have been an edited out, and there might have been a lot more time, but he did just have a big sniffle. So I'm thinking this question came very shortly after that cry.
Every day you went to work, she would say, "Good morning, how are you? How was your evening?" Boom, it was small talk, go. We weren't going to hang out and chit chat or whatever. She knew that the clock was the enemy and we have to move forward.
Once on set.
Now, I find this interesting too, because part of the criticism that the defense had of the entire production and why Hannah was rushed and all that is because people were being rushed, and people were cutting corners, and it was, again, a low budget film. And he's actually talking about that. And he's saying, yeah, no small talk. She just gets work done. She knew how to get work done, which I think is a little weird in light of what happened here. And is he trying to set this up already on her part, that she just was so focused on getting work done quickly and meeting those deadlines because time is the enemy? Well, time isn't the enemy when it comes to safety on the workplace, whether it's a set or anywhere else.
Baldwin posts this video.
I want to say I look at myself in the reflection of this, and I'm really kind of appalled. It's appalling. We're here shooting a film. We start tomorrow, and no, I'm not playing Santa Claus. On the 12th, I had a safety demonstration with Hannah Reed, the armorer.
24-year-old Hannah Guitierrez Reed, seen here in photos by the DailyMail.com, was hired as the film's armorer, in charge of all weapons on set. The daughter of a famous Hollywood armorer, Rust was only her second film in this role. She spoke to the Voices of the West podcast about working as lead armorer for her first film before Rust.
I was really nervous about it at first, and I almost didn't take the job because I wasn't sure if I was ready, but doing it, it went really smoothly.
We spent an hour and a half shooting the pistol, her giving me all her safety instructions.
Did you think she was up to the job?
I assumed because she was there and she was hired, she was up for the job.
And nothing she did.
I assumed because she was there and because she was hired. Again, claiming no say in whether or not she was hired. Trying to distance himself. Again, he was talking about the creativity, the vision that he had for the film, trying to delineate that he was only part of the creative process with the cast and cinematography, but not anything to do with, simple, petty little things like the guns, which is really the major prop on this film.
Did raise any red flags with you?
No.
Okay. This training course you do, what did she tell you?
She said things like, remember, this is a blank round, so you have to create the discharge yourself because there's no projectile. So if you shot the gun, you go bang. When we roll the camera, you got to go bang and have the gun snap back. You have to create that. She would give you little tips about firing, and she'd say to you, when we're done, point the gun down. When we're done, you give the gun to me or to Halls, only those two people.
Dave Halls was Rust's assistant director.
So at least he's not denying that he got safety tips and he spent an hour and a half with her. But it's kind of like he's trying to minimize. Well, she said, do this and do that. She would give me little tips. Well, an hour and a half of training one-on-one with the armorer must have been more than little tips. Just seems like.
Also known as the first AD. Seen here in this IMDb photo. He was responsible for keeping the production on schedule.
Sometimes we would be on a set that was a very, very cramped set, and they wanted people in that room on an as-needed basis. But if I'm holding the gun and they say cut, I then hand the gun to Halls if she's not there.
Yeah, why Halls, not Hannah? Some people have said that only the armorer should be handling
No.
it.
That's inaccurate. Meaning in the protocols of the business, meaning Hannah would to hand me the gun 99% of the time, whatever, the preponderance of the time. But when we would say cut, if Hannah was away from the set, I would hand Halls the gun.
Again, in light of the trial, if Hannah was away from the set, so they did not require, as the prosecutor implied, or more than implied during the trial, they did not require Hannah to be on the set, in this case, in that church when this was being blocked. It wasn't even actually a live action at that point. But so he's saying right here, she wasn't always on the set. So it must not have been a requirement that she was on the set. The armorer had to be on the set. Sure, he said most of the time she was, but there were times she wasn't. And he didn't seem to be, upset about that in any way. Just was the way it was.
Hannah Guitierrez Reed had a dual role on set, armorer, and she was also the assistant prop master for the film.
One of the things her attorney has said is that she was hired for 2 positions on the film and therefore was stretched in an inappropriate way. Did she raise any of those concerns with you?
No, I assume that everyone who's shooting a lower budget film is stretched, myself included. And I got no complaints from her or the prop department. I'm not sitting there when I'm getting dressed and ready to go do a scene saying, oh my God, the prop woman seemed very harried today. I didn't get a sense of that from any of the people on the film. The first time I heard that there was any problem with anybody in the crew of the film was when Luber said, well, we have some issues here.
Lane Looper, the first camera assistant, would email production managers a resignation letter later that night, citing.
Okay, so again, now he didn't say here, well, I didn't hire these people, so they wouldn't come to me. If they had a problem, they would have gone to the person that they reported to. Why would they bring that up to me? So it's kind of interesting, but he is saying, I didn't hear anything from anybody. Well, who's going to tell the lead actor if they were having problems getting their jobs done in the crew? It wouldn't make sense. If anybody's worked in theater, on commercials, or on movies or TV sets, and I've been on several behind the scenes, not as an actor, in costuming, you wouldn't go to the lead actor if you had an issue. But he doesn't say that. He just said no. I think it was an interesting answer. A little bit too prettied up, I guess.
Safety concerns. Quote, during the filming of gunfights on this job, things are often played very fast and loose. So far, there have been 2 accidental weapons discharges. He also wrote about concerns about reasonable rest and housing for local crew with long commutes to the set.
When he quit, now the day before that happened, we wrapped. And he came up to me and he said, thank you for the position you've taken on behalf of IATSE and the union on social media. I said, my pleasure.
This photo, posted by Helena, showed the cast and crew in solidarity with IATSE, the International Alliance of Theatrical Stage Employees, which had been on the verge of a strike. And Alec posted this on Instagram.
And I want to say to the people in IATSE, do what you need to do. You want to go on strike? Go on strike. Because I'll tell you something about the executives. They don't give a about you. He said, because we have some issues here. I said, such as? And he said, my men need a better hotel room. There was no mention of safety issues.
He didn't say anything about the accidental discharges on set?
He didn't say anything about anything. He goes, my men need better hotel rooms. I said, well, we're leaving, we're wrapping. Will you be here tomorrow? He said, yes. Because what I was about to do, which I've done on any number of films and TV projects, was to give more of my salary back to the production to pay for X. And I was about to say to him, let me know what it would be to B&B you guys in a house that's closer to how we can address your problem. I will be happy to contribute to that. The next day they were gone.
This confuses me because if they were rapping, this just doesn't make sense. But okay, but he can say anything he wants, can't he? I don't think the cameraman, I don't think that was one of the witnesses. Okay.
So you had no sense from anyone on the set that people had been stretched to the point where safety was compromised?
No. I never heard one word about that. None.
Rust producers told ABC News Mr. Looper's allegations around budget and safety are patently false, which is not surprising, considering his job was to be a camera operator, and he had absolutely nothing to do with or knowledge of safety protocols or budgets. Safety is always the #1 priority on our films.
When people say cutting costs, I don't say this with any judgment or any cynicism. Spielberg wants to save money. Tom Cruise wants to save money. Everybody who makes movies has a responsibility not to be reckless and careless with the money that you're given. We know those are men who make movies that cost $205 million. And I'm making movies that cost $5 million or
the question, though, is were costs being cut at the expense of safety and security?
In my opinion, no, because I did not observe.
Okay, he had his answer. He had his answer ready. Well, everyone's going to be frugal with money in any business, any size of production. But you can hear him not expecting this follow-up from George. He's like, so this is an interesting answer. And he's looking down and to his right at this point. And we know what that means generally.
Any safety or security issues at all in the time I was there.
Thursday, October 21st, Baldwin posts a photo of himself in costume on Instagram. Back to in person at the office. Blimey, it's exhausting. That morning, Looper and 6 other crew members walked off the set. Filming continued with a replacement camera crew. Scene 118 in the church was slated for after lunch.
Everybody there was having a positive experience. People who are watching the show, people who are back home, you have no idea how unique an environment a motion picture set is. It's kind of, there's an instant familiarity. The amount of care, these are people who are professionals who have really good jobs in a field they love. And I looked at all these people and I see how hard they work. They're so
here we go.
hardworking and they're so conscientious. And you're around people and you're part of one of the great collaborative processes in the world, movie making. Everyone moving like a watch to get everything done. And when you kind of, I don't make that many movies anymore because movie making demanded that I travel and I didn't want to leave my family. All these movies I made, I stayed home. I didn't want to go. If I went away,
Maybe that's why he doesn't make movies anymore. Got a little emotional there in his eyes. Did you think that was authentic when he was talking about the crew and how hard people work? It seemed, I mean, I'm gullible. It seemed authentic to me. Yes, there was a contract for Hannah that I'm not sure if there was a for her armorer position. I can't remember about the assistant prop position, if there was also a contract for that, because she had 2 different jobs. I'm not sure about the second part, but there was an exhibit that witnesses were questioned about relating to her contract.
I went away for a week. To leave my family for 4 weeks and go shoot this movie, that was a big deal. And I'm sitting on this pew. And so help me God. I sat on that pew right before they called lunch. And I said, this movie has made me love making movies again.
Huh. Okay. I don't remember him saying this. So this was before they took their break. He's claiming that he sat on that very same pew. What a visual he's conjuring up for us, right? That wasn't the vibe anyone else got. Everyone else seemed like they were stressed and unhappy and working too hard and scared and tired and confused and disorganized. And not just Hannah, but lots of people were complaining of all that. So interesting. But of course, they wouldn't complain to him, would they? Of course, it would, he's the lead actor and he's the head honcho. So he's not going to be aware of what everybody else is going through unless somebody brought it to his attention. She claims they didn't.
Because I used to love to make movies. I did. I worked with people once. I was going to do the movie The Edge. And they called me and said they got Tony Hopkins to do the film.
What do you make of it? Yeah, look, if we're here.
And I started sobbing. I just started sobbing because I thought, oh God, I'm going to have a chance to work with this guy.
Any chance you can go easy on me?
When they cast me in It's Complicated with Meryl, I thought, I'm going to get to go make a movie with her. Sorry. People, they have their dreams. No matter how old you are, you have your dreams of people you want to work with. And this.
Okay, so his eye bags above and below his eyes are very pronounced. And you can see that his upper eye where he was rubbing and the other side looked pretty pink. And so another commentator did bring out that if he got the peppermint oil on his face, obviously it's going to turn, especially around the eyes, it's going to turn red. So do you think he was using something to make himself squint and cry and have a runny nose here, or do you think it's authentic? And the answer is This part is so fake and oh geez. Right. He has a reputation that stands to reason. Of course, he's going to be oblivious to what anyone else is going through on that set, especially the crew.
Movie made me love making movies again. I really thought we were onto something.
Next.
She goes down.
Okay. I wish he would have followed up with that because this was a low budget cowboy film. What did he think they were onto? How many cowboy films were out there? Why did he think this was anything different? Because up until now, he's just describing it and he's admitting that this is a low budget film, right? He's not, although he tried to make it a little bit grand for a little while when he was talking about Elena Hutchinson and their vision or his vision. I don't even know if it was hers, but what was that? I wish George would have followed up on something. Is he saying that the crew was so great? We were such a family and we were going to just make another film after another and another because it was just so great? Because that was just left hanging there. I would like a follow-up to that.
I thought to myself, did she faint?
Hi, everyone. George Stephanopoulos here. Thanks for checking out the ABC News.
Okay, sorry. Got to go back and get the next part. I think that was the longest part. Here we go. Did she faint?
It was the 12th day of their 21-day shoot.
That day, I did exactly what I've done every day on that movie.
Baldwin was preparing for his next scene, a shootout inside this wooden church.
Set the scene right before that happened. You're sitting in a pew in the church.
Right.
What's the scene supposed to be?
The scene is the two guys are there who have got me, cornered, and they think I'm shot pretty bad, and I'm kind of wilting, and they have a gun, and the sound outside distracts them, and I then draw the gun, cross-draw out of my holster, pull the gun up like that, and start to cock the pistol, cut. I'm handed a gun, and someone declares, they said, "This is a cold gun."
Dave Halls?
The first AD. In my years.
So I don't know if that was an edit, but he's going on how he's supposed to cock the gun, which during the trial, everyone testified that he wasn't supposed to cock anything. He wasn't even supposed to expose the gun. So why it needed to have dummy runs, I don't know, because it wasn't even going to be exposed. So no one would see that. Could have been empty. But in any case, somebody told her to put dummy rounds in, or maybe she didn't. They didn't ask that question, by the way. Who decided what to put in that gun? Who decided whether it should be empty or not? Because that was part of what he said in the beginning. It was empty, except for the dummy rounds. Where did that come from? So, but he wasn't supposed to cock it by anyone's testimony. And now he's saying he was supposed to cock it and do the crossfire. This was just blocking. If you know anything about blocking, and it's just, you're getting the actors' movements on camera, nothing really detailed. They're not speaking. They're not doing anything intricate or involved, such as, a hand movement on the gun. It just doesn't make sense what he's saying here. And then he pops over and changes the subject just like that.
On the sets of film, hot gun meant that there was a charge in there, and cold gun meant there was nothing in there. When he's saying this is a cold gun, what he's saying to everybody on the set is, you can relax. The gun is empty.
That's what cold gun means.
Well, cold gun means there's no charge in there. There could be dummy rounds.
A dummy round.
Not true, according to the trial. Cold gun means empty, according to the trial. And I don't know. Correct me if I'm wrong, please. Please do. I take criticism very well. You guys all know that. Usually.
It looks like a real bullet, but is completely inert. It contains no explosive charge.
And you were rehearsing that scene. Was it?
It just does. I'm sorry, I'm interrupting again, but it doesn't make sense why there would be dummy rounds in if they were wanting him to cock it in that close quarters, because that's a tiny little church. There were a ton of people there. And it does make sense why Hannah would have been outside of the church or been told to get outside of the church. And if she was getting bullied by people on the set or wasn't liked, people probably were saying, okay, you did your job, now go on, and shoot her away. That's the impression I got. So this doesn't seem to line up at all with what we know about Hannah's trial. I'll be really interested in to see how they clear this up if they clear this up in his trial.
In actual rehearsal, there's some disagreement about that, whether it was a formal rehearsal at that time.
This is a marking rehearsal where I'm going to show her. She's standing next to the camera. She's like this.
I'm going to show her, and he points. Okay. No one said it was a marking. They said it was a blocking. There's a difference. Let me go back. I'm just going to go back a little bit here.
Completely inert. It contains no explosive charge.
And you were rehearsing that scene. Was it an actual rehearsal? There's some disagreement about that, whether it was a formal rehearsal at that time.
This is a marking rehearsal where I'm going to show her. She's standing next to the camera. She's like this. You're me. She's got a monitor here. The camera is here filming that way. She takes a monitor that is his monitor, the operator, and turns it toward her. It swivels. And she says to me, hold the gun lower. Go to your right. Okay, right there. All right, do that. Now show it a little bit lower. And she's kidding me.
No one said that's what happened. No one said that's what happened. They said he was blocking. He had it here. He did a slight movement like he was about to take the gun out. No one said this all happened. I am fascinating. I cannot wait to hear what other people say really happened.
To position the gun.
And he keeps pointing. This whole time he keeps pointing. You would think, why does he keep pointing like that? He keeps pointing like this. Crazy. Why is he doing that? You would think he wouldn't want to do that anymore. I wouldn't.
Everything is in her direction. She's guiding me through how she wants me to hold the gun for this angle. And I draw the gun out.
And everything was at Elena's direction. In other words, not my fault. She was telling me to do this. She was standing at her camera. He went to lengths to talk about her position and how she was looking at the monitor and pivoted it over. It's like there's a camera with the monitor, but she actually pivoted it over to the side. So he's explaining all of that, her perspective. Why? Because he's blaming her.
Out and I find a mark, I draw the gun out, I find a cut. And what's really urgent is the gun.
Nobody, no one testified that he was doing this. If you see the video in the trial, his hand is way down here under his coat. And then he says, what's really urgent. Here's what it comes. Here's when it comes. And it was, but it was only the blocking before that was to happen. If you know anything about filming, it's like they're filming the back of him. Sometimes it's not even the same actor doing all of this. His hand was across his body. It was a little lower than here. Okay. Under his coat. Half of it was under his coat. Okay. I'm going to go back just a tiny bit because this is weird too. He says, what's really urgent? That's a strange choice of words too.
And I draw the gun out and I find a mark. I draw the gun out, I find a cut. And what's really urgent is.
And also, did you hear that? I draw the gun out. It was marked. I draw the gun and blah, 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 like he just mumbled a bunch of words that didn't make sense. And it was cocked. Who cocked it? It wasn't cocked. You cocked it. There was all this mumbling. Okay, I'm going to go back one more time. Sorry, you guys. Because this is like, I really haven't heard this in full.
She's guiding me through how she wants me to hold the gun for this angle. And I draw the gun out and I find a mark. I draw the gun out, I find a cut. And what's really urgent is the gun wasn't meant to be fired in that angle.
So if you're shooting directly.
What was really urgent, first he goes, it was blah, 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 cocked. Those were not words. And then he said, what was really urgent is the gun wasn't meant to be cocked. That whole 2 sentences made no sense to me. I don't know. If you can make sense out of that, let me know.
Into the camera lens. You're not aiming.
I'm not shooting into the camera lens. I'm shooting just off.
Just off.
Right, in her direction. I'm holding the gun where she told me to hold it, which ended up being aimed right in below her armpit, was what I was told. I don't know. This was a complete.
where she told me to hold it. It's what I was told. I don't know. That's not what anyone else said.
The incidental shot, an angle that may not have ended up in the film at all. But
it was incidental. So yeah, why was it even cocked? It might not have been in the film. They were just blocking. That's the point. I think this guy was just playing cowboys and Indians too long, quite frankly, and had his head in the clouds. That's and I do think it was an accident, but it was more carelessness, and he got wrapped up in being a cowboy.
we kept doing this news. So then I said to her, now in this scene, I'm going to cock the gun. I said, do you want to see that? And she said, yes. So I take the gun and I start to cock the gun. I'm not going to pull the trigger.
Still pointing.
I said, do you see that? She goes, well, just cheat it down and tilt it down a little bit like that. And I cock the gun. I go, can you see that? Can you see that? Can you see that? And she says, and then I let go of the hammer of the gun.
Well, obviously she can see it. She's 2 feet away. This doesn't sound plausible. I cannot wait. Honestly, this is making me just die for this trial.
And the gun goes off.
And then the gun
I let go of the hammer of the gun goes off.
I let go of the hammer and the gun goes off. I let go of the hammer and the gun goes off. Okay, let's remember that
moment. The decisive
That was the moment the gun went off. Yeah, that was the moment the gun went off.
It wasn't in the script for the.
Not crying now. Not crying at all. Not an emotional, still pointing. Wouldn't this be? I don't know. I guess we're all different, but I'd be like, oh my God, I can't even imagine. Obviously, it was an accident. I'm not, but wouldn't you be like, now he's starting to sound really like he's just trying to sell a story. Okay. He's not emotional at all about this. The moment the gun went off, you would think would be the most emotional point of this story so far.
Trigger to be pulled.
Well, the trigger wasn't pulled. I didn't pull the trigger.
So you never pulled the trigger?
No. I would.
No. Okay. And so just for those who didn't see the trial, this is, they had gun experts on and they said this is not possible. He had to either have the trigger pressed or pulled. Not possible. But he definitely says, and I'm glad we're doing this because I didn't see all this. No. So again, he's trying to sell his story. I mean, I guess I would too, but it's better just to be honest. It was an accident.
Would never point a gun at anyone and pull a trigger at them. Never. That was the training that I had. You don't.
And here he starts pointing. I wouldn't point a gun, but I'll point my finger at you for another 20 minutes, which is also super rude. Like, I wouldn't like I don't like people gesturing like that toward me, especially if they're talking about a gun. It's just kind of creepy. He's creeping me out.
Point a gun at me and pull the trigger. On day one of my instruction in this business, people said to me, never take a gun and go click, 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 because even though it's incremental, you damage the firing pin on the gun if you do that. Don't do that.
And Hall's attorney told ABC News that he was watching and agrees that Alec did not pull the trigger and that his finger was outside the trigger guard.
So you have this Colt 45, you just pulled.
The hammer as far back as I go without cocking the actual.
And you're holding on to the hammer.
I'm holding that. I'm just showing. I go, how about that? Does that work? You see that? Do you see that? She goes, yeah, that's good. I let go of the hammer. Bang, the gun goes off.
Bang, the gun goes off. But I thought she fainted. Which is it? Now, I just want to go back to that little thing that George Stephanopoulos just said, because I did not remember that. Let's go back to what George just said. Sorry, you guys. And then we'll get moving through this more quickly. And by the way, if you want the entire interview without commentary, for those of you who are not here for my commentary, I'd be happy to give you that. It will be in the description after the show.
Pin on the gun if you do that. Don't do that.
And Hall's attorney told ABC News that he was watching and agrees that Alec did not pull the trigger and that his finger was outside the trigger guard.
So David Hall's attorney, speaking for David Hall's, said that his finger was outside the trigger, and basically everyone said that's not possible. So first of all, it's not possible. And how the heck did they have live rounds? Because there weren't supposed to be any live rounds on the set in the first place. Okay.
So you have this Colt 45, you just pulled.
The hammer as far back as I go without cocking the actual.
And you're holding on to the hammer.
I'm holding that. I'm just showing. I go, how about that? Does that work? You see that? Do you see that? She goes, yeah, that's good. I let go of the hammer. Bang, the gun goes off. Everyone is horrified. They're shocked. It's loud. They don't have their earplugs in. No one was. The gun was supposed to be empty. I was told I was handed an empty gun. If there were cosmetic rounds, nothing with a charge at all, a flash round, nothing. She goes down. I thought to myself, did she faint?
He just said, and the gun went off, bang, like a 2-year-old. Okay, sorry, not sorry. But did she faint? If a gun goes off in your hand and you don't have ear protection, my understanding is your head's going to be kind of like your ears are going to explode. Hi, Lorenzo. It's so good to see you. I don't know if you caught the first episode of our draft because I know you had requested that. So we did an episode at 12 o'clock today, about 7 hours ago, with Brennan Rupp. So you got to check that out.
The notion that there was a live round in that gun did not dawn on me till probably 45 minutes to an hour later.
45 minutes to an hour.
I love George here. 45 minutes to an hour. I mean, 45 seconds, maybe 4.5 seconds, 45 minutes to an hour. This is quite the tale. This is where okay. Now I remember why I want to watch this with you guys. This is why I think this interview might be played or used by the prosecution. I don't know.
She's laying there and I go, did she get hit by wadding? Was there a blank? Sometimes those blank rounds have a wadding inside that packs us like a cloth.
She's laying there. Like, he doesn't talk about, I ran up to her. We were trying to help her. None of that. She's laying there. Like she's some kind of and he's talking about wadding. Like she's some kind of an inanimate object like the wadding is. I mean, very little emotion here, which is so odd. He just shot the woman.
That packs the gunpowder, and sometimes wadding comes out and can hit people, and it could feel like a little bit of a poke. No one could understand. Did she have a heart attack?
No one.
Because remember, the idea that someone put a live...
No one could understand. He's saying not only did he not think he shot her when he just shot her, you can see blood spattering everywhere, but no one there could understand. Everyone knew she was shot.
Bullet in
this is crazy.
The gun was not even in reality.
Did you go up to her? Did you back
I went
away?
up to her, and then we were immediately told to get out of the building. We were forced to get out of the building. The medics came in. I mean, I stood over her for 60 seconds, and she just lay there kind of in shock.
Was she conscious?
My recollection is yes.
That was a weird, again, very much not connected to, I stood over her. What, you stood over her? Like, oh my God. Just imagine, what would you do if you were on a movie set or doing something where you accidentally just shot somebody at close range and they're down on the ground bleeding everywhere? You're just going to stand over her and wonder what happened. And by the way, they didn't push him out that quickly of the church, but okay, that's going to come out in the trial too.
911, what's the location of your emergency? We need an ambulance out at Bonanza Creek Ranch right now. We've had 2 people shot on a movie set accidentally. I'll connect you with medical dispatcher. Don't hang up.
Director Joel Souza is also wounded. His shoulder hit by the same bullet that traveled through Helena.
When she went down, he went down, and he was screaming really loudly. And I thought, what is he screaming? What happened?
So was it loaded with a real bullet or one? I cannot tell you that. Okay. We have 2 injuries from a movie gun shot. Okay. We're getting them out there already. Just stay on the phone with me. Okay.
Within 15 minutes or 20 minutes after that, the police arrived and took the church set and put the crime tape around it, the yellow tape, and forced us all to the perimeters of the parking area where we sat and waited. She was in the church, and she was not taken out of the church for quite a while.
In the aftermath, there was chaos and confusion.
But nobody told you what happened?
No. It wasn't until I was in the police station. Hours later, I mean, it was like seeing aliens.
Nobody told you what happened. Again, this is the dude that was holding the gun that went off. Even if it's true that he didn't pull the trigger, a bullet came out of his gun in his hand. You would feel that. You would, from what I understand, you would have felt that. And you certainly would have heard it. He's acting like, I mean, certainly by all means, you can go into denial. And it does sound like Joel, who also got hit by the gunfire after Elena, which is, just awful. He couldn't believe it. I can see why you would be in a state of non-belief, but to say that you didn't know what happened, that's different. Do you understand? I mean, maybe I'm wrong. What do you guys think? He's acting like he really didn't know for an hour. Come on. After an hour, you'd figure it out, even if you didn't talk to anyone else.
It was utter disbelief over the idea. It was unacceptable, the idea that it was a live round. And finally, one of the police officers at the conclusion of my...
I do believe that. Utter disbelief that it was a live round and unacceptable. I could see that. I accept that. But he's doing way too much distancing and more extra than he needs to.
Interview. I was there for like an hour and a half or so. She takes her phone and she slides it across to me. She says, that's what came out of Joel's shoulder. A .45 caliber slug. It was a real bullet.
Had you known that Joel had been hit?
No one had any idea until that police officer, that sheriff's officer said to me, this is the slug, .45 caliber slug they took out of Joel.
No one had any idea. Not true, but okay, sure. Then why were you on the phone with the lawyer? Okay. But he's now talking about at the police station in the interrogation room. They're no longer on the set. And he's talking about when the police, who is now a corporal, and the prosecutor made it very clear, corporal, because she kept calling her corporal, like, oh, big deal, because she just seemed very young and inexperienced, and it was pretty comical. But he's gonna say something later that implies he's still back on the set. So just take note of that. He's talking about when she was in the interrogation room with him, got word that here's the bullet that they took out of Joel. This is the slug, as they called it, and he starts mixing the story up again.
Arm. And then the kind of insanity-inducing agony of thinking that someone put a live bullet in the gun.
Okay, so right there, he was more honest. He said the agony of thinking that somebody could have put a live bullet in the gun. That I believe. But again, because you're going to be in denial, you're going to be questioning, but he knew it. You wouldn't feel agony unless you knew it or accepted it. So there's where he's being honest, but it's not quite exactly what he was saying before. Okay, and here's the last section, part 3.
We've all seen that picture of you off the set in that hour or so after the gun went off. What were you doing? What was going through your mind?
At the end of, she was laying there, and she was there for a while. I was amazed at how long they didn't get her in a car and get her out, but they waited and a helicopter came. And by the time the helicopter took off with her and literally lifted off, we were all glued to that process outside. When she finally left, I don't know how long it was. She was there 30 minutes, 40 minutes. It seemed like a very long time. But they kept saying, well, she's stable. Like nobody, just as you disbelieved that there was a live round in the gun, you disbelieved that this was going to be a fatal accident.
So you didn't know exactly how serious it was?
At the very end of my interview with the sheriff's department, they said to me, we regret to tell you that she didn't make it. She died. They told me.
Okay, he say we just believed or disbelieved? I need to go back, because this doesn't make sense either. He asked him about that picture on the set, and then they're going to go back to the interview.
I don't know how long it was. She was there 30 minutes, 40 minutes. It seemed like a very long time. But they kept saying, well, she's stable. Like nobody, just as you disbelieved that there was a live round in the gun.
Nobody disbelieved, he said, that there was a live round. So that means everyone believed there was a live round. He just completely contradicted himself, and he's going to repeat it.
You disbelieved that this was going to be a fatal accident.
Then he says you disbelieved. In other words, you don't believe it's going to be fatal. But that was weird. Which is it, Alex? Did you believe it, or were you in shock and you didn't believe it? He just completely contradicted himself. And look at George's face. He's like, what? What did you just say?
So you didn't know exactly how serious it
At the
was.
very end of my interview with the sheriff's department, they said to me, "We regret to tell you that she didn't make it. She died." They told me right then and there.
They told me right then and there, which was, again, at the sheriff's department more than an hour later.
And that's when I went in the parking lot and called my wife to talk to my wife.
Shock.
But they're showing the picture of him on the set. So I think because George was asking about him being on the phone at the set, which is a big thing in the trial. That's why I'm going on about this. Okay.
Shock and grief. Helena's husband, Matthew, posted a tribute to Helena. Helena inspired us all with her passion and vision, and her legacy is too meaningful to encapsulate in words. Our loss is enormous.
When this happened, her husband comes to town. Her husband, Matthew.
It must be I don't know where he's from. Her husband comes to town. He used that comes again instead of he arrived or he came to town. It's like present tense. It's strange.
And I met with him and their son. And he was as kind as you could be.
What can you possibly say to him?
I didn't know what to say. He hugged me and he goes, I suppose you and I are going to go through this together, he said. And I thought, well, not as much as you are, and his little boy is there who's 9 years old. I have 6 kids now. I have my older daughter, Ireland, but of the 6 kids that Ilaria and I have, my oldest is 8. I have a 9-month-old baby. And I think to myself, this little boy.
So he's like, got to talk all about himself here. Immediately shifts off. She's going to go back to talking about him and the little 8-year-old boy, but he's got to talk about his children and I've got a 9-month-old baby. Okay, congratulations. He's trying to show that he has empathy, but he's talking about himself, which is really odd because he's saying he was so kind to him. This, I would think, would bring you to tears too. No tears here.
Doesn't have a mother anymore. And I know that in my life, I'm with my kids and I'm doing quite well with my kids. My kids and I are having a great time right until my wife walks in the room and then I become invisible. My kids all go and they jump on top of their mother. And this boy doesn't have a mother anymore.
No.
And there's nothing we can do to bring her back. And I told him, I said, I don't know what to say. I don't know how to convey to you how sorry I am and how I'm willing to do anything I can to cooperate.
To cooperate?
In the aftermath of the shooting.
Okay, he's saying, I'm sorry and I'll do anything I can to cooperate. He's not saying to help you get through this, to support you, to cooperate. That's interesting. Didn't catch that one earlier either. Did anyone else pick up on that?
A torrent of criticism.
The first thing you do when you pick up that gun is you make sure that it's never pointed at anybody.
He should have known that an AD handing you a gun and saying it's cold isn't the same as several people showing you an empty gun.
If I were holding that gun, I would have checked it, wouldn't you?
Mm-hmm. People said to me, I got countless people online saying, you idiot, you never point a gun at someone. Well, unless you're told it's empty and it's the director of photography who's instructing you on the angle for a shot we're going to do. And she and I had this thing in common where we both thought it was empty and it wasn't. And that's not her responsibility. That's not my responsibility. Whose responsibility is remains to be seen. But
There are some who say you're never supposed to point a gun at anyone.
That's not her responsibility. That's not my responsibility. It remains to be seen. Well, I mean, I don't know. I was never on a set, as far as I know, where there were guns. If they were empty. There was no pointing of them. Absolutely. But I did a lot of different productions over the years. It's been a long time though. But the fact that he didn't actually personally check the gun, I mean, you would think that'd be protocol that they would show you, but if it were dummies, yeah, I mean, I still wonder why were there dummies in there in the first place. That's my question. And obviously, how did a live round get on the set? Because they weren't using live rounds, supposedly. Supposedly.
One on a set, no matter what.
Unless the person is the cinematographer who's directing me where to point the gun for her camera angle. That's exactly what happened. That day I did.
Again, how many times now have we should have kept count. How many times did he blame Helena for this?
Exactly what I've done every day on that movie.
Which is what?
Which is that there's an armorer there, and that word is new to me. In the years I've been in this.
That word is new to me. Well, it's new to me personally. That word is new to Mr. Cowboy. Was this his first cowboy film?
What did you call it?
It was a prop guy or woman. And the prop person would come and sometimes they would insist on demonstrating for you and the camera crew. They take the gun. If it was a contemporary gun, they show you the chamber. They show you the clip. They say, the gun is cold. And you look and go, thank you.
They show you.
And in the 40 years.
Sometimes that would happen. Not all the time.
Well, but no, sometimes they wouldn't demonstrate to me. Some insisted on demonstrating. They would do the demonstration for everybody there right before we rolled the camera or rehearsed. Then there were others who they didn't do that because I trusted them to do the job. And again, this is not just me pointing a gun at somebody else, people pointing guns at me. Well, I've gotten shot and killed in films before where people had to shoot a flash round at me, and I trusted them to do their job. And in the 40 years I've been in this business, all the way up until that day, I never had a problem.
How many times do you think you handled a gun in those 40 years?
Oh, God, I don't know. I don't know. What amazes me is how many rounds of bullets do you believe have been fired on the sets of movies and TV shows in the last 75 years?
No idea.
Great way to change the subject. He doesn't answer that question, does he?
Yeah.
Right. It couldn't even be above 1 billion.
No,
You've had hundreds.
1 billion? Oh my God.
And hundreds of millions of bullets fired on the sets of films and TV shows.
Hundreds of millions? Come on. What okay. I did not hear this part of the interview.
And 4 or 5 people were killed. Now those deaths are.
Okay, here we go. Now he's going, but those deaths are unacceptable. Okay, that's where he's going with this. This is disgusting.
Are tragic and abhorrent. And believe me, I would do anything in my power. I would do anything in my power to undo what was done. I don't know how that bullet arrived in that gun. I don't know. But.
So that was cut. That didn't go from one statement to the next. That was kind of cut. So that was a little odd. But he must have asked him about how. Because he's talking about live rounds. He's saying hundreds of millions of live rounds are on set. That's not true. That is just not even true. Where is he coming up with this? That's not true. Live bullets?
I'm all for doing anything that will take us to a place where this is less likely to happen again.
Oh, congratulations. I'm all for doing anything that won't happen again. Well, that's not what we're talking about. This is just. Of course you are. Nobody questions that. Yeah.
Single time I'm handed a gun on a set. Every time, Mark. They hand me a gun, I look at it, I open it, I show it to the person I'm pointing it to, we show it to the crew. Every single take, you hand it back to the armor when you're done, you do it again. Right. Everyone does it. Everybody knows it.
How do you respond to actors like
everybody knows it?
George Clooney, you say that every time they were handed a gun, they checked it themselves.
Well, there were a lot of people who felt it necessary to contribute some comment to the situation, which really didn't help the situation.
No, it didn't help the situation. It didn't help you. That was a little snotty.
At all. You have if your protocol is you check the gun every time, well, good for you. Good for you. I mean, I probably handled weapons as much as any other actor in films.
I've handled as many guns as you. Good for you that you actually are safe with yours, and I'm not. Congratulations. I mean, that was so dumb. Why did he even say that? That didn't help him. Good for you.
With an average career, again, shooting or being shot by someone. And in that time, I had a protocol, and it never let me down.
Why did you?
I had a protocol and it never let me down. I mean, you know what? I just wish he would just say, look, maybe George Clooney is more hands-on, and I applaud that. And in the future, I should be too. This will never happen again. In the past, though, I trusted my crew to check for me. I mean, honestly, I would never handle a gun. But if I handled a gun and this happened, and it was my habit not to look at it personally for whatever reason, and to trust my crew, I would just say that. I was wrong to do that. I would never do that again. I'm going to check it myself personally. Actually, I don't think I'll ever handle a gun again after this because it was so traumatic. His answer is just so defensive and snotty, and he's not taking responsibility, and he doesn't seem to have any remorse. I mean, I'm certain that he didn't want this to happen. I don't mean it that way, but he's just coming across as someone who's just really not regretful.
You choose in your 40 years not to check the gun yourself?
What I was taught by someone years ago was.
Great question from George. How do you choose for 40 years not to check the gun yourself? And here we go. When I was taught by, in other words, it's somebody else's fault.
As I said, if I took a gun and I popped a clip out of a gun, or I manipulated the chamber of a gun.
So he says, when I was taught by, and then he goes, and then like I said, when I did he didn't say what he was taught.
It would take the gun away from me and redo it. The prop person said, don't do that, when I was young. And they'd say, one thing you would need to understand is we don't want the actor to be the last line of defense against a catastrophic breach of safety with the gun. My job, they told me, man or woman, my job is to make sure the gun is safe, and then I hand you the gun and I declare the gun safe. The crew's not relying on you to say that it's safe. They're relying on me to say that it's safe. When that person who was charged with that job handed me the weapon, I trusted them, and I never had a problem.
And this was from the beginning of your career?
From day one. There's one person that's supposed to make sure that what is in the gun.
George is like, and this is from the beginning of your career. He's like trying to say, for 40 years, really? You were handed a gun and you just trusted that it was okay? Even though there had been accidents, accidental shootings, even by, I guess, blanks can even hurt someone. He's sticking to his guns here. He's sticking to his story here.
Gun is right, and that is what's wrong is not in the gun. One person has that responsibility to maintain the gun. And
what is the actor's responsibility?
I guess that's it.
He's just like long pause. He's like, he did not expect that question.
That's a tough question because the actor's responsibility going this day forward is very different than it was the day before that. Yeah, now I can't. First of all, I can't imagine I'd ever do a movie that had a gun in it again.
Thank you. Thank you.
And I can't. When you say what is the actor's responsibility is to do what the prop armorer tells him to do.
Now, this is where in his trial he's going to have trouble because he was also the producer.
And we did not have a problem. I mean, I understand there was an accidental discharge at one point on the set of a blank round, but we did not have a problem for me until that day. Everything gets slowed down. Zapruder film-esque here. And the issue with that is there's only one question to be resolved, only one. That is, where did the live round come from?
Well, there's more than one question, but sure. Okay, I think there's a part 4, you guys. Sorry, I lied. Where'd part 4 go? Did I lose it? Oh gosh. Okay. I lost part 4. Hold on a sec. He also had, while I'm looking for that, I'm going to play just for entertainment purposes instead of music. I'm going to play this for a sec while I'm looking. Okay.
Forced us all to the perimeters of the parking area.
Sorry about that. Part 4.
After the shooting, everyone's trying to get their bearings. Helena has finally been taken away in a helicopter. Joel Souza has been taken to a different hospital.
Within 15 minutes or 20 minutes after that, the police arrived and took the church set and put the crime tape around it, the yellow tape. And
Okay, so now he's saying, which is true, the police didn't get there for 15 or 20 minutes. So the fact that he said within 60 seconds they pushed him out of the church and he couldn't, so that there's no indication that he was, around Helena or anything like that, trying to help her or figure out what happened. And they pushed him out and he didn't know what happened. The police didn't come for 15 or 20 minutes.
Forced us all to the perimeters of the parking area where we sat and waited.
Nobody told you what happened?
No.
We got the call at 1:48 p.m. that day.
So again, somebody called 911 and said there was an accidental shooting on the set of Rust and they needed medical help, 2 victims. They were there for 15 or 20 minutes without any police presence because it took that long to drive out to that set. And he's claiming he had no idea what happened that entire time. This is so odd. Why say that?
Our deputies responded within 2 or 3 minutes to the scene along with EMS. So it was pretty immediate.
Alec was just beside himself. We were all dumbfounded.
When they get there, there's over 100 people there. It's pretty hectic and pretty chaotic.
The people who were in the church all had to be interviewed by police.
I was in my trailer and one of the other actors told me, hey, you should know, I just heard on the walkie a pretty urgent call 911. And we assumed the stunt went wrong.
I went back to base camp. We were there until the police came down and talked to all of us.
News of the shooting spread quickly.
Breaking news on a movie set near Santa Fe.
The sign behind me does say Russ. We do believe that's where the incident may have happened, but we are working to get that confirmed.
In the afternoon, we heard some rumblings out of New Mexico that there'd been some sort of accident on the set of the Alec Baldwin film Rust. At first, we weren't really clear what it was.
But as the day went on, we learned more.
And ultimately, we found out something had happened with a gun, and it was Joel and Helena who were involved.
You know what? This is part of the ABC 2020, The Deadly Take. This is not part 4 of George Stephanopoulos, but it's almost an hour and a half. So I'm going to take a pause here and we'll go back to part 4 of the final part of the interview next week because we just jumped into a different ABC 2020. So sorry about that. So with that, let's take a pause. It's about time anyway to take a pause because my throat is giving up. Yeah, very tragic, super, super upsetting and sad. I found it just, I mean, I don't want to say that I'm passing judgment on anyone because even Elena Hutchinson's husband was part of that, but they actually did finish filming Russ and make it into a movie. And I mean, I'm guessing he felt he did it for her because she would have wanted the project completed, but I just felt it was a little distasteful, honestly, for me personally, but just to go on with the show. But I guess in some ways it helped those who were involved to have some closure. So there's 2 sides to that for sure. Yeah. Oh, was it around the murder? Yeah, I remember the day it was reported. I was like, what is going on? It was big news. And you guys remember it too. Yeah, because they were just showing that all the news coverage. Yeah. It's sad. How do you feel? Do you feel like involuntary manslaughter should be charged, or since it was involuntary, should it just be a civil issue? I felt like with Hannah Guitierrez, I found myself wondering, why is she really being charged an accident? I mean, she was certainly shown to be inexperienced and maybe irresponsible, but she wasn't shown to tamper. They didn't prove that she was under the influence while she was on the job. She might have been partying at night. Probably a lot of people were doing that, whether they were drinking or whatever. Again, I've been around enough of sets to know that's what goes on, but I just wonder how you feel. Should it be actually it was clearly an accident, and we're just looking at Alec Baldwin. My motivation for looking at his interview with George Stephanopoulis, and maybe we'll get to the police interview too, is just to see what might come up in the trial and what little tidbits he might have left that we could pick up on before the trial even happens, having seen the previous trial. But I don't know. How do you feel about people having to go to prison for making a mistake, for being sloppy? For me personally, I feel like the person pointing the gun would be more responsible than the person who was hired to be an armorer, especially because somehow the live round got on the set and she clearly did not know that and was not aware, and it wasn't marked possibly. And it just, the whole thing seems so weird. It was clearly an accident. Okay, so Helen says, yeah, it really sad. Helen says, I only thought Alex should be in trouble. So do you think criminally, in a criminal charge, or civilly? Because obviously there are all kinds of civil lawsuits too. Irresponsible gun use is out of control. I agree. That's true. You got to set some precedents, right? That's true. Will that help? Maybe, maybe not. Like also the crumbling cases, which also came up. Yeah, I have mixed feelings. I feel like there has to be like with Hannah, what were her charges? Okay, her charges were involuntary and tampering. They said not guilty on the tampering, but it just seemed like there had to be some kind of forethought. I know that's not exactly how it was written up in the law, obviously, but it just seemed like an accident to me, and there wasn't forethought. Of course, there should be when you're handling guns. We definitely need to know. I don't think we're ever gonna. There was a big cover up about how the live round got on the set. Big cover up, and all those people got deals with the prosecution. So we're not ever going to know, which is really sad. And that bothers me. Helen, I'm not sure. I forget you have civil suits. Yeah, we have a lot of civil suits going on with this case. Yeah. And of course, Alec Baldwin is saying that too. How did he get on the set? And Lightning Scott, hello. Thanks for weighing in. People go to jail every day for unintentional accidental deaths. Yeah, I guess we don't hear about them as much. How do you feel about that, Scott? Should they? Or are you saying they should or shouldn't if it's accidental? I feel like if it's, okay, so you've got negligence, obviously. It seemed like there was negligence in this case on both Hannah and Alec's part. Of course, presumed innocent and all that, but from what we've seen in her trial, and she was found guilty. But I think like the warnings, like were there warnings? Was there a way to know? Was there some way for her to have known that there was somehow live ammunition on that set? Queen Olive says, yes, big cover up. I agree. And Tennis says, hello to Lightning Scott. And Helen is all mixed up. Join the club. Join the club. It's okay to be mixed up. I mean, that's why we talk about it. I mean, just imagine one day you could get a letter in the mail that you're on the jury for this, or you're, going to be interviewed to possibly be on the jury for a trial like this. And again, we should presume innocence until they prove their case. I had such mixed feelings. So Lightning Scott, you're saying that people get thrown in jail all the time for accidental deaths, but do you agree that they should, or should it be handled just civilly? That's my question. I don't know. It's an accident. I'm just torn on that. So, okay, I was going to quickly go over, if my voice holds up. Let me quickly go over some of the other cases. I want to hear again what you guys are. Oh, let me see, where did I put that? Looking at, because there's so many cases coming up. Anybody following Karen Reed? Anyone following Karen Reed? The Boston police officer who, I'm looking for where is my, oh, I know. Who was found dead, I guess you'd say. Was it murder? Did she accidentally run into him or not? At the bottom of my description of this video, that's why I'm having a hard time into him or not, because I'm not used to looking at the video that I'm on. But at the bottom of the description here, I have a whole long list of trials that I've got my eye on, and there's just too many. Okay, here we go. So we've got the Delphi case. Are you guys watching Delphi? That's coming up. That's finally going to happen. Indiana versus Richard Allen. The victims were Abigail Williams and Liberty German. There's a lot of controversy on that one. And then the OnlyFans model got delayed. That's Courtney Clenny in Florida. So I don't know when that is. And then in April, the victims were Tylee Ryan, JJ Ryan, Tammy Daybell, and this is Idaho versus Chad Daybell. You guys watching Chad Daybell? So Karen Reed, Chad Daybell. Karen Reed, the victim was John O'Keefe. They're calling it the tailgate murder. It's the Boston police officer, as I mentioned. And then there's one coming up here in California nearby, which is California versus Larry Millette. I believe that will be, and I believe it's pronounced Millette, but August. I know most of you are looking forward to fall with Florida versus Donna Adelson. We still have Sarah Boone. Not sure how interested I am in that one. Shanna Gardner. I'm interested in that one because it's Jose Baez, the defense attorney, and he's pretty radical. He's pretty great. And the victim there was Jared Bridgen. I can't pronounce his name. Sorry, Jared. Then Corey Richens, that's not even on the books yet. I'm also really watching this victim, Dylan Rounds. This is the squatter who is in jail, but there's no trial even on the radar yet. This is a 19-year-old whose body is still missing. This is really sad. And that's Idaho. Very sad. We're going to watch Anna Walsh, Massachusetts versus Brian Walsh. It does look like that's going to go to trial, probably not till next year. We have so many coming up. Anyone paying attention to Lisk, Long Island? How are you feeling about Idaho 4? That's probably not happening until summer of 2025. And who are we going to see in another arrest? Barry Morphew, or is he never going to be rearrested? What do you think? So on all of those, what are we watching the most? Let me come back to the comments. Okay, number one, what are you the most interested in on those? Let me go back to the top because they're more in order, pretty much in order. Delphi or Daybell or Karen Reed. Those are the two coming up closest. Okay. All right. Oops. I can't scroll. Sometimes my computer, there we go. Okay, it's a busy year. Yep. Nothing happening with Lisk. Tennis girls interested in Boone. Okay. It's such a hot mess, that one. I'm interested because it's like a train wreck. I'm going backwards here. Tennis girl, I am a little, okay, let me go back up. Big cover up. That's the issue. It was Hannah's job to control the guns and the ammunition. Yeah, it's really hard. Okay. So Delphi. Well, does Sarah Boone even have a date now? I can't remember. I wrote it down on my every time I do a docket for my channel, it changes. Chud and Shallow. Yeah. Well, especially because Daybell will this time will be able to see the live feed, not just the audio. So that'll be interesting. Although I don't know. I think I might get too irritated with watching Chad. Ugh, I can't even say that name without just feeling ick. And his look-alike lawyer, John Pryor, who is just I don't know, have you, Tennis Girl and others? I've watched every single pretrial hearing, Zoom call, all of it with that. And it's just over the last couple of years with John Pryor and his antics. I don't know if I'm going to make it through that trial, honestly. Plus, it's so sad and upsetting with those children. I'll probably try to watch most of it, but I'm going to have a hard time with it. It was hard enough with Lori, but Chad, oh my gosh. Okay, so maybe Sarah Boone is May. Okay. Oh, maybe April. Wow. April's going to be insane then if it's April. So many trials at once. Right. It's kind of hard to look away now. Well, we want closure. We want to see it through. Do any of you follow Annie, Tylee's aunt, sister of Joe, Lori's third husband, who also is dead? Her channel is A Murderous Heart. She's amazing. She's amazing. And she, if you haven't and you're into the Daybell case, wow. As not only the Daybell case, but the Charles Vallow and the trial that's going to come in Arizona against Lori Daybell. Daybell. So Vallow Daybell, whatever her name is this week. Yes, A Murderous Heart. Let me write that down for you. She is you just have to go through her entire I would recommend starting from the beginning and just like put her on, like, she's very data driven. She's a data analyst and she's super careful about everything she puts out, which I appreciate. I have so much respect for her. And she's actually recently been asked to give the victim impact statement after Chad Daybell gets found guilty, which in all likelihood he will, if I should say, but we know. I mean, because Lori was and the children on his property and all that, we're kind of like assuming he's going to be found guilty. You never know until it's over. But she has such extensive knowledge, and the way she puts the data and the information together, she takes all of the public records that are available from way back for all of these victims and for all these cases. And she doesn't like do trial reaction and that kind of thing. She's just, it's a very different perspective. And of course she has a personal perspective, and she of course knew Lori. She was her sister-in-law. Again, and Tylee was her niece. They had been somewhat she had been somewhat estranged from her brother Joe Ryan, and that's where Tylee gets, that's Tylee's father, her brothers. And so I would highly recommend, if you are into that trial and you're not going to watch any trials till then, or if you want more insight, wow. Yeah, A Murderous Heart. Oh, good. Awesome. She's the best. And she's a heart of gold too. Just wow. Love. I have so much respect for her. She does talk about some things that are a little bit controversial, but just, keep an open mind because it's a different perspective. But again, I respect her accuracy so much. She really does her research and doesn't get super emotional about what she's presenting. I mean, obviously she has emotions, but because she's a family member, but Yeah. Oh, I'm so glad I was able to share that with you. All right. So with that, let's call it a day. My throat is about gone. And I will be back either during the week or next week. I keep promising a bonus episode during the week, and I know I owe you guys a skincare workshop, and I would really like to do that as soon as I can. So, and I will. So within the next month, I will, I promise. So we'll have to finish up on Rust, but we're going to be going back to the Crystal Rogers and the Bardstown in between when these trials start. If you want a summary, if you're not up to what's happening with the Boston, excuse me, not Boston, with Massachusetts versus Karen Reed, Harvard lawyer Lee just started covering that. And of course, she's a lawyer, and she does a great summary, very basic stuff. But if you're already following it and you know things, that might be a little too basic for you. But she's great. She's a great follow too if you're not following her. So thank you. It's good to see you. It's nice to see you. Oh, and Lightning is back. Let's put it this way: you or I would be headed to jail. Yeah, I hear you. That's why I'm here. I'm getting more and more. In fact, speaking of Harvard lawyer Lee, one of the things she mentions on her channel a couple of times, and she said she might do a show about it, and I was one of the few people who was like, yes, please. She said that she read somewhere that the prosecution success rate for conviction is over 90%. She said she was reading it was as high as 99%. In other words, you're not innocent until proven guilty. By the time, and I see that with YouTube a lot, and that's why I try really hard. I know I was hard on Alec tonight, but I'm hard on him, but I'm still going to have an open mind. A lot of people make fun of me because I talk to people who believe Alec Murdaugh was guilty and all that. I mean, was innocent. Hey, I mean, as a potential juror, if you're sitting on a jury, you're supposed to really, really, really believe someone is innocent until the prosecution really proves them guilty. And I do feel like it's getting really sloppy, and that's a little bit scary. I'm not super scared, but what if you were? Or what if somebody you loved was in the wrong place at the wrong time and they were charged with something they didn't do? And you are facing a prosecution rate, conviction rate of that high. It's over. It's over for you. One of my pet interests is also the Innocence Project, because it's really important to know that there are people in prison serving time and have served time that are innocent. And so I do feel like I'm going to work really hard to up my sensitivity game, because I am super sensitive, even to criminals, and especially before they're tried, because I think it's important. We owe it to ourselves. And how much fun is it to just point fingers at somebody? Oh, they're guilty. I mean, I'm not here for that. I'm not here for, a witch burning or anything like that. Yes, too many coincidences. Yeah, well, then we have that. So yeah, sometimes there's such a preponderance of coincidences, and we're never going to have every trial that has direct evidence. Oh yeah, I actually saw that person shoot that person, or I actually saw that. We're going to have to go on circumstantial evidence a lot of times for the most part with trials. But I do believe that I personally get more out of all of this, watching trials, looking at interrogation videos, looking at interviews, looking at statements, when I'm holding the position that the person really might just be saying the wrong thing, but actually innocent. They really might be innocent. It's better for my brain. It's a better mental exercise, and it's better for my heart. So that's kind of what I like to do here. So with that, we will see you guys soon. Bye for now. Thanks for joining me. Good night.